Welcome, everybody. So excited for another episode of Impactful Insights. Today I'm with Monica Sicilliano of De Novo HR Consulting. And we're going to talk about a problem that I think every organization is really focused on. Some are thriving, but I think many more are doing okay, but I'm not sure they're up to thriving, and some are having huge issues. And that we're going to talk about the different models of work, right? And so do you have a fully distributed model like I do, right? Is it a hybrid where there's an office, or is it remote or in office? I think I messed that up slightly, but we all have all these different models, and we have different teams that might even be having different models. And so I'm so excited that Monica has given us some of her time to share her input and her insights into how to go from struggling to thriving within your organization. So Monica, before we get started, why don't you do a quick introduction for our audience?
Yeah, so again, my name is Monica Sicilliano. Thank you so much for having me join your meeting today. We at De Novo HR Consulting offer a wide array of HR consulting services, from training to strategy development to compliance to recruitment services, and I am a partner here at De Novo.
Awesome, and thanks again. So let's get right into it. Let's first, why don't you define the different types of work models that you're seeing out there, right? Let's start at that basic point.
Yeah. So this has been dynamic and changing over the last couple of years. There are more companies than ever before who are leaning into a permanent hybrid model or a fully distributed model. So working in office is different than being a distributed workforce, where your employees may work remotely from home or perhaps anywhere across the globe. And then a hybrid model would be a combination of the two, whether an employee works part-time in office and part-time remotely, or some teams work full-time remotely and in office versus the other. So a big challenge for many managers who are experienced managing a traditional in-house team is the shift in communication methodology and possibly the frequency of communication. If you like, I can offer an example of each.
That would be awesome. I was just writing that down. Thank you.
Okay, gotcha. So regarding methodology then, David, when employees are together in the same work site, there's often face-to-face collaboration during which we can pick up on each other's nonverbal cues. Intuitively, we seem to know to default to the nonverbal cues over verbal communication when they're in conflict with each other, right? So, for example, David, if you're my manager and you assign a project to me and you ask me if I understand what my responsibilities are, and I look at you and I say that I do, but my face looks very confused, you know the real answer is that I'm confused. I don't know what's expected of me. I do not understand. So in a distributed model, when we take away nonverbal cues, we're missing out on 70+% of the messaging. So my point here is that messaging on Slack, project management applications, and so on, they're all great collaboration tools, and they should absolutely be used to increase efficiencies. However, at De Novo, we encourage our clients to default to video conferencing in place of in-person meetings when they're not possible due to hybrid or distributed work. And this way, the nonverbal cues are still part of that communication equation.
And for me, I know if we're on the phone, it takes me about 90 seconds to be distracted if I'm not on video with somebody. And like you said, those cues are so important, because sometimes people can say yes, and you can just tell that they mean no, even other words. So definitely.
Yeah. And we were just talking about the perception of eye contact. If I'm looking at you on my monitor right now, it looks like I'm not looking at my camera. If I'm looking at my camera, I'm not looking at you. So there's often a little bit of a back and forth and a struggle as to where the individual should be looking. So that's kind of an interesting nuance of Teams and Zoom meetings.
And then you talked a little bit about frequency. Yeah. So, I'm assuming if you're not in front of the person, probably we're increasing the frequency of communication, but I will wait for your answer because you know more than I did.
Yeah, no, so I'm going to say that's up for debate. And I have an opinion based upon my experience. But yeah, regarding frequency, depending upon the study, you may read that managing a distributed workforce or team requires 50% more communication than an in-house team. 50, 50. That's a lot of time to budget for. I would argue that much of that time is not actually more time, but rather differently categorized time. So for example, managers chatting with employees in the kitchen while they're grabbing a cup of coffee, that's not historically categorized as management activity. But that time still helps build strong, productive, positive relationships. And such interactions like those, which occur accidentally in the workplace when we're working together in the same building, they really should not go away, but instead they should become intentional. So I'm going to argue that's the shift. So what I would suggest is that we don't have to necessarily add up to 50% more time to the budget, but we could add more time, but definitely we want to recategorize the time spent and be respectful of those impromptu chit chats that help develop those strong relationships.
And something that I'm working on now, so I'd love to get some free consulting here out of this, is that we are nationwide, we are a virtual company, and I'm trying to do things to build more of those informal. I do a monthly coffee with people, I do lunches, whether virtual lunches with people. So what are some of those things that if you're not in the office that you can do to increase that culture, that connectiveness? And I also believe that oftentimes magic happens during those informal conversations, right? So why don't you share? I'd love to hear some insights about that.
Yeah, absolutely. A lot of times we hear about mass customization in the product industry, right? I like to think that there is a very strong utility for mass customization within the workplace and with that employee-employer relationship. So a lot of times we were told to have those times and on Zoom and play games with your employees and really get to know them and everybody, two truths and a lie. Or some employees have more respect for those activities than other employees find them to be a misuse of their time. And they don't love that type of interaction. So when we circle back to mass communication, circle back to what the employee really wants, and that's going to vary from individual to individual. I think it would be a mistake to assume that everybody wants the same thing and reacts the same way to everything that is put in front of them. So for example, someone that tends to be a little bit more introverted probably does not love two truths and a lie. They may consider that to be an infringement upon their privacy, yet they feel forced by management to participate. So what makes a lot of sense to me is that mass customization. Ask each employee how they want to continue to build a strong, healthy relationship with their supervisor and with their colleagues, and then try to make good on that request as best you can. An example of this would be a lot of employees feel very respected when they're invited to participate in skip level meetings. What that means is you might have an individual contributor reporting to a supervisor who reports to a manager. And when you invite that individual contributor to collaborate with the manager, skipping the level of the supervisor, who certainly could be in attendance, you are showing that you respect and value the input of every level of employee at every level of hierarchy within the organization. So in summary, I would say go that mass customization route if you can, and ask people what they would consider to be valuable.
One thing, we use strength finders. One of my strength finders is individualization. So
Yeah.
I firmly believe that everybody's different, has different wants, have different needs, have different desires. And its leadership's role is to figure out how to give them what they need to thrive, or at least that's my view of the world.
Oh, absolutely. We always at De Novo, we say that the management style that managers should embrace is the one that brings out the best in their employee, which means ideally managers are trained and educated and good practitioners of every management style out there, because that communication is so individualized. I agree with you completely. Yeah.
And so let's talk a little bit about the differences between management, right? Or, a manager or mid-level or, manager versus leadership and their roles in this different types of workplaces.
Yeah, so this is a very important topic for small business owners that are looking to scale. Small business owners, they start out just them in their basement, in their garage. They have to take on the responsibilities of multiple departments. They become subject matter experts in everything from supply chain to last mile delivery to customer experience. And as they grow and they bring on new team members, they have to delegate that work to someone else who perhaps they feel can't do it as good as them, right? It's not their baby. So there's a hesitancy, right? There's a hesitancy to do that. But what our ideal future state is to be able to, maybe trust but verify, but delegate that work to appropriate individuals, right person at the right company, sitting in the right chair, right, that is engaged and accountable for their process of their strategic business unit or whatever the case may be, so that leadership can spend their time on strategy and proactively creating a strong and positive culture within the organization, paying attention to how are they going to achieve their vision and what are their corporate values that every manager should be fully educated on so that all decisions are made through the lens of corporate values. Whereas managers have more grassroots responsibility for the execution of that strategy. Both of them, I would say, are so important to the company. It's a symbiotic relationship. One can't live without the other. But one cautionary tale, if I may share some things that I have seen over the years, is that sometimes managers will be a little bit divisive and they will present as though they will take care of their employees and leadership is the enemy and it's them and their employees against leadership. And I love to encourage our clients to understand that from individual contributors to the C-suite, everyone should be sitting on the same side of the table, and it's leadership's responsibility to make sure that that happens and that that's executed in a way that is a positive experience for everyone.
Well, we obviously think a lot alike. I literally use the term, we sit on the same side of the table, and I want to sit on the same side of the table with all my people on my team. We lose together, we win together, but none of us ever lose and the other one wins if you're part of us. So
absolutely.
Love that. So Monica, this was awesome, and so many ways to be successful. And one of the things I'm hearing from you is it's not so much the model, it's how you maximize the model that will maximize the success. And there's many pathways organizations can take to maximize the model, but they need to be mindful, they need to be proactive, and they need to make things happen.
Absolutely, with intention. Be intentional.
With intention, yes. So, yeah. Monica, that was really awesome. Why don't you just give a little plug for your company? I know a lot of people are struggling with this, and certainly it's something that I think about as well. So why don't you give a quick little plug for your organization?
Okay, sure. Again, the name of our company is DeNovo HR Consulting, and we can be reached online at denovohrc.com. We are based out of Bucks County, Pennsylvania.
Which is a beautiful place, and probably the leaves are changing already and even getting prettier for a little bit. So yeah. On behalf of C-Suite, thank you very much, Monica. We appreciate the audience spending some time with us. We're about giving you education and some insights and thoughts. So everybody go crush your day, and thank you very much.